In this video, I'm going to explain how to solve questions related to inverse proportion. Question number 1. 10 men takes 8 days to finish a certain task. 12 men work for first 2 days. Question A. What is the magnitude of the task? We can find out the magnitude of the task by multiplying number of men and number of days. 10 men take 8 days. So 10 times 8, 80 man days. We use man days or maybe man hours, maybe man weeks to measure the magnitude of a task. So the magnitude of this task is 80 man days. Part B. How much of task will be completed during the first 2 days? Now it says 12 men work for first 2 days. So how much of task means we need to find again the magnitude of the task which is completed during the first 2 days. So the magnitude of the completed task equals number of men, 12 men, number of days, 2 days. So it is 24 man days. Part C, how many more men needed for the next 4 days to complete the task within 6 days? This means if they need to complete the task within 6 days, how many more men they should employ for the next 4 days? We know that already they have worked for 2 days and the remaining days will be 4 days. So for the next 4 days, how many men are required? Let's find out. Let's use our equation. Now this is a task which is performed by 10 men using 8 days. So the magnitude of the task is 80 man days. But in this situation, 12 men work for the first 2 days. That means they have covered 24 man days. Now this is the completed task. What about the remaining task? It should be 80 minus 24. We get 56 man days. And this is our remaining task. Now the full task is completed within 6 days. That means there are 4 remaining days. And the remaining task is 56 man days. Now what we should find is how many more men should be needed for the next 4 days. So let's find out number of men needed for 4 days. Let's put x. Now let's solve this equation. X times 4 is 4x. 4x equals 56. X is 56 divided by 4 and we get 14. So 14 men are needed. Therefore, 14 men are needed to complete the remaining task. What the question requires is how many more men needed for the next 4 days. Then what do you mean by more men? This means for the first 2 days they need 12 men. And for the next 4 days they need 14 men. So how many more men? 2 more men for the next 4 days. So 14 minus 12, therefore 2 more men are needed to complete the task within next 4 days? This is the second question. Now this is a different question. It is not about man hours. A vehicle traveling at 40 kilometers per hour takes 30 minutes to complete a certain journey. Find out the time that will take to complete the same journey if the vehicle travels at 50 kilometers per hour. Now, this is a relationship between speed and time. So, it's different from the previous sum. Let's write speed and then time taken. When the speed is 40 kilometers per hour, the time is 30 minutes. Now, if the vehicle travels at 50 kilometers per hour, we need to find out the time take to complete the same journey. So this is x. Here I'm going to use a different method. I'm going to use the knowledge of ratios related to inverse proportions. We can identify that speed and time are in inverse proportion because higher the speed, lesser the time taken to finish a certain distance. So we see that the speed has been increased from 40 to 50. So if I write the ratio of speed, I can say it's 40 to 50. And this ratio of speed equals the ratio of time which is interchanged because there is an inverse proportion. So we need to write by interchanging the numbers of the ratio in time. Now don't write 30 to x, it's wrong. Then it has to be a direct proportion. Now this is, we have to write the other way around. You need to interchange the numbers of one ratio. So I'm going to interchange the numbers of time ratio. So it should be not 30 to x, but x to 30. So the ratio of speed equals ratio of time interchanged. Now we can solve this and find value for x. Now let's write this as fractions. 40 over 50 equals x over 30. Now when we cross multiply, we can find out the value for x. 50 times x is 50x equals 40 times 30. Now what is the value for x? X equals 40 times 30 divided by 50. Now let's try to simplify this. I'm going to cancel zeros. Then for 40, how many fives? It's 8. 8 times 3 is 24. So x is 24. Therefore, 24 minutes will be taken to complete the same journey if the vehicle travels at 50 kilometers per hour. Right, let's take the third question. 4 men complete 2/3 of a task by working 6 hours a day for 3 days. Question A. What is the magnitude of the task in man hours? Now we use man hours, not man days. So we have to take our answer in man hours. Now, of the task means they refer to the full task, the whole task. Now, in this question, the information is given for 2/3 of a task. But we need to find the magnitude of the full task. Let's use our equation. Man hours now, right? Equals number of men times number of days. And what else? We need to find out the man hours. So we have to multiply by number of hours also. Let's say per day. Right, now let's substitute the values and see. So according to the details, 2/3 of the task is completed by 4 men. So number of men 4. And they work for 6 hours a day for 3 days. So number of days 3. And per day they work 6 hours. So multiply by 6 because they work for 6 hours per day. And how many days they work? 3 days. And what is the number of men? It's 4. So when you multiply all 3 together, you will get 4 times 3, 12. 12 times 6 is 72 man hours. Now we found our answer in man hours. Now is this our answer? No. This 72 man hours represent 2/3 of the work. So let's write it. 2/3 of the work is completed by 72 man hours. Then what about the full task? Full task means 3/3. So out of 3 parts, 2 parts represents 72 man hours. Then how much for 3 parts? It will be, when you simplify this, 108 man hours. Therefore, 108 man hours will be taken to complete the full task. That means the magnitude of the full task in man hours is 108 man hours. Question B. If 4 men decide to complete the task on the next day, how many hours will have to work? Now, we know that initially they use 3 days and cover or complete 2/3 of the work. And we know that there is 1/3 of the work remaining. So to complete this remaining work or the task, they use the next day. So we need to find out how many hours will they have to work. Now, first of all, we need to find the remaining task. We know the full task is 108 man hours. We found it in the earlier question. And they complete 72 man hours. So the remaining task is 108 minus 72, 36 man hours. Now these 4 men, they need to complete 36 man hours on the next day. And we should find how many hours we'll have to work. Okay, so we'll write our equation. Number of men times number of days times number of hours equals man hours. So our man hours is the remaining task 36 man hours. Then the number of men is 4 and number of days is 1 because on the next day they need to complete the task. And number of hours we should find. So let's put x. Now it's a simple equation to solve. It's 4x here. 4x equals 36. X is 36 divided by 4. X equals 9. Therefore, 9 hours will be taken to complete the task on the next day. Fourth question. It takes 9 men 4 days at 5 hours per day to finish a task. How many men working 6 hours per day can complete the same task in 10 days? So there are two situations here. So let's apply our formula. Number of men times number of days times number of hours equals man hours. So in the first situation, 9 men for 4 days. 9 times 4 times 5 hours per day. They work 5 hours per day. So number of hours is 5. And what do we get? 9 times 4 is 36. 36 times 5 is 180. Then for the next situation, we need to find how many men. So let's put X for number of men. And how many days do they work? They work for 10 days. Times 10 times how many hours do they work per day? 6 hours per day. And they are going to complete the same task, which means 180 man hours. So again, we have to solve this equation. X times 10 times 6 is 60x equals 180. X is 180 divided by 60. And we get 3 as our answer. Therefore, we can say that 3 men are needed to complete the same task in 10 days by working 6 hours per day. This is our last question in this video. It says, a group of men completed tasks in 9 days. Then 3 more men were recruited for a similar new task. If together they have completed the new task in 6 days, how many men were in the initial group? Now here they haven't given us the number of men. And in this question, actually, we need to find this number of men. Find how many men were in the initial group. So there are 2 groups. Now let's assume the number of men in the initial group as X. So let's write our formula. Number of men times number of days equals man days. So in the initial group, we don't know the number of men. We should find it. So let's put X. And for how many days do they work? 9 days. And what is our man days? It's 9 times X, 9X. And for the next group, what happens? 3 more men were recruited. And together means this X number of men plus 3 more men. So X plus 3. If they work for how many days? 6 days. This new group of men also work for a similar task. Therefore, the man days should be 9x. Therefore, the magnitude of the task should be similar. Now, if we solve this equation, we can easily find x. That means number of men in the initial group. X plus 3 times 6. We can write this like this. X times x plus 3 equals 9x. Then we can remove the brackets and simplify this. 6 times x is 6x. 6 times plus 3 is plus 18. Equals 9x. So I'm going to send this 6x to the other side. 18 equals 9x minus 6x. Then we get 3x. 18 equals 3x. This means x equals 18 divided by 3. So x is 6. This means there were 6 number of men in the initial group. Okay then, hope you understood how to solve different questions related to inverse proportions. Make sure to watch all the parts of inverse proportion video series. Then you can simply acquire the knowledge on solving questions regarding inverse proportions. See you then. Don't forget to subscribe.